Welcome, fellow saints, to the Holy of Holies. I'm Brandon. This is Cinema Saints. Today, I'm so excited to talk to you about my top 10 films of 2018. I know a lot of people have already given their top 10 list, and I'm kind of late on this, but I did want to make sure that I got to see every single film that I wanted to see that could potentially make my top 10 list of last year. Now, this was a tough year to make a top 10 film list because it was a pretty dull year in film. It didn't have a whole lot of movies that stood out to me. It was just a very dull year. And so some of the movies that I have on my list can be really interchanged between some of my honorable mentions and all that. But I think my top 10 is pretty solid this year. So my main criteria for this top 10 list is stickiness. I looked at all the films that have really stuck with me throughout this past year, and some of them may not be very entertaining, but I definitely felt like they left a mark on me. And I made sure to watch these films twice to make sure that it's as good as the initial viewing. So with this list, I also look at a lot of movies that were overlooked by a lot of people, and I think that they deserved a little more love. My list isn't full of them, but there are definitely a couple of films that you should definitely check out. They're little hidden gems that I think a lot of people would really enjoy. Well, it's time for me to finally talk about my top 10 films of 2018, and we're going to start with number 10. So my number 10 really came out of nowhere for me. I saw a bunch of buzz for it coming from a lot of festivals, and this little film is Coralie Farge's Revenge. Honestly, it barely missed my list, but after watching a couple highlights from this movie, I knew that there was no way I'm going to keep this bloody thriller off my list. This film was too good. It had a bunch of shock. It had a bunch of gore, all the stuff that you'd like in a nice horror movie or horror thriller. So if you're really into those kind of things, check out Revenge by Coralie Farge. It doesn't disappoint. It's flashy. It's bloody. It's good. If you want more of my thoughts on this film, definitely check out the podcast episode 12. We talk about it in length. It's the May 2018 releases. So my number 9 is a little surprising remake that came out last year. I wasn't sure about it, but I was looking forward to it because of the greatness of the original and the director attached. And the movie I'm talking about is Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria. Man, this film is wild, guys. Check it out. So this movie moves a little slow at the beginning, but golly, it will stick with you. I didn't think that this movie could get crazier and build on the craziness throughout, and then it just leaves you with this ending scene that is just one of the craziest things I've seen this year. So Suspiria, put it on your list if you're a horror fan. I feel like this film does a really great job capturing the feel that Dario Argento created in the original Suspiria. So I don't think you should worry about if you really enjoyed the first one, if you would like this one. I think you should just go in and try it out. Number 8 on my list is one of my favorite sci-fi movies in recent memory, and that film is Alex Garland's Annihilation. This film is wonderfully shot, acted, directed, written so well, and it's so thought-provoking, and it definitely will allow for discussion after. I mean, guys, I'm still thinking about the final scenes, and especially the scene with Natalie Portman and like the whole dancing sequence is still just stuck in my head. It was such a wonderful scene. But if you want any more thoughts on this film, check out episode 5 of the podcast. We definitely go in depth. We talk about spoilers and all that stuff on episode 5 and episode 6 of the podcast. Those would be the March 2018 release episode. All right, now we're at number 7. My number 7 film really hit me on an existential level. I am a sucker for existential, like, just spiraling films, and Mark Pellington's nostalgia really got me. I've really thought about this film a lot this past year. I've thought about the people that I love, the things that I leave behind because of my short existence, the things that will allow people after me to know who I am, kind of leaving my legacy and all of that. This movie just really hit me, and I've been thinking about things. It's kind of changed the way that I've done things in my life, and so I think that that is just a fascinating way that a film can affect me, and so that's why it's number 7. It has to be on this top 10 list. So if you haven't seen this film, I would definitely recommend checking it out somewhere to stream. If you want to hear my thoughts more in depth, you can check out the podcast episode number 5. It's on there with the March releases of 2018. All right, so next I have my number 6. Now this film was so hyped up because of all the festivals it was hitting and the extreme hype that was coming from all those festivals. And honestly, I was really hesitant to watch it because of the hype. But Carlos Estrada's Blind Spotting was everything that the hype lived up to. So this film attacks gentrification in America through the relationship of two best friends. So I think the main reason why I have this film over other films that were about racism was the unique way that it incorporated hip-hop and rap into its dialogue and all the intense scenes that come along with it. And on that note, one of the last scenes that involves a basement and rapping was absolutely phenomenal. The way that they incorporated all that and the way that it was shot was just insane. And the soundtrack, too, is just amazing. So Blind Spotting is definitely a film that a lot of people didn't see, and I really encourage you to check it out. All right, we're halfway there. This is my number 5, and it's a tentpole blockbuster that I got to see last summer, and I had an absolute blast throughout the entire movie, and that is Christopher McQuarrie's Mission Impossible Fallout. I mean, who didn't love this movie? I mean, honestly, if you haven't seen this film, you didn't see the best action movie of last year. And who would have thought that I needed Tom Cruise chasing people down in helicopters in my life? God, it was so cool. Just see this movie. Every Mission Impossible movie just keeps getting better, and it's insane that this is the 6th one. So just see it. Have fun. It's awesome. And also, if you want more of my thoughts, check out episode 20 of the podcast. That would be our July 2018 releases. So my number 4, I didn't really actually look forward to. It just kind of showed up at a theater near me. And oddly enough, it's a documentary as well. And that is Morgan Neville's Won't You Be My Neighbor. There's no way I'm not putting this on my list. This film was just so wholesome, and it gave me a just phenomenal look into the life of Fred Rogers. So sitting in this theater, it was such an emotional experience for me because of the little nuggets of life wisdom that Fred Rogers would give to the kids, to different adults and stuff, because there are a lot of things that we were told as kids that a lot of times we need to kind of build up a little self-confidence, to build up a little positivity in our life because of everything that adults go through in the real world. A lot of times that we need a little bit reminder that there is a little good in this world. And it's not all just bad. And the thing is, there's so much more to this documentary as well. I absolutely love this documentary, and I can't wait to watch it again and show people it. And so definitely check it out. And if you're interested in more of my thoughts on this film, check out episode 16 of the podcast. June 2018 releases. I go a lot more in depth on my feelings about this film and how much I loved it. Now for my number 3 film, you've probably been wondering where this is on my list, and some of you may be upset that it's not higher. But my number 3 film is one of the best horror films I have seen in years, in a very long time, and that is Ari Aster's Hereditary. This film really didn't set in for me until about the 3rd or 4th time I watched it, but I kept watching it, and I can firmly say that it is a masterpiece. It is an absolute masterpiece. The family dynamics in this film are phenomenal. The terror building throughout the duration of this movie is extremely unnerving. And it gets to the point of where once you hit the climax of the film and the last couple minutes of the film, there is no way you cannot have any kind of just unsettling feeling going on in your body when you're watching this. It's amazing. I mean, the film is just absolutely phenomenal. And if you don't like it, then you actually hate movies. This movie is so well crafted that there's no way you can hate this movie because it's so dang good. So it's definitely worth checking out if you really enjoy horror movies. It's slow burn. It's kind of the same pacing as The Witch. If you didn't like The Witch, then I wouldn't bother with this movie. But definitely check it out if you're a fan of horror movies. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this film or hear my spoilers, go check out episode 16 or 17 of the podcast, the June 2018 releases. All right, so it's down to the last 2 films on my list. And if you know me, these last 2 films, you definitely knew were going to be 1 and 2. but you didn't know which order they would be in. And I've been switching the order around a couple times, but this is the definitive order that I think that they should be in. So my number 2 is a little film that came out after Thanksgiving, and I actually got a chance to go see it. I drove a couple hours for a director's cut showing of Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built. And so the reason why I have this as number 2 is this film provoked so many emotions, so many responses from me just by sitting in a theater that was sold out for 2.5 hours. And it was just 2.5 hours of nihilism in the form of a serial killer movie. And I had never been so provoked in my life watching this film. This film is shocking. It's thought-provoking and something you just experience. But it's definitely not for everybody, so proceed with caution if you do end up watching this film. For it to be my number 2, it had to really provoke me to allow me to think and stick with me, and I think this film really, really does stick with you whenever you see it. And if you want all of my thoughts on this film, check out episode 36 and 37 of the podcast. I go in real deep with this movie and talk about a lot of stuff. So enjoy that when you can. What could my number 1 film be of 2018? Could it be the film that was completely snubbed out of Oscars this year? Yeah, it's that one. And it has first in its title. And if it isn't already apparent, my number 1 film of 2018 is Paul Schrader's First Reformed. When was the last time you watched a movie about Christianity that didn't explicitly ask you to go convert your friends and family? Probably never. Although it's not explicitly a Christian movie, and it's not produced, directed, written by Christians, this film definitely opens doors to the world of film and art for Christians and non-Christians. What this film does best is charges Christians and non-Christians to think about real-world situations theologically. And the thing that I love about this movie is it doesn't give an easy answer. It depicts the harsh reality of how the world is, and how saying the name of Jesus doesn't really fix everything, and that it will push you out of your comfort zone, and it demands action. When was the last time a Christian movie challenged you like that? Probably never. It also shows the tension that pastors live in as they go throughout their day-to-day pastoral duties as they run the church. There's a lot of complex characters here, and that's awesome because people in real life are complex. I also like that it doesn't demonize Christianity. It tries to understand all sides of this situation. I could talk about this movie all day, and I absolutely adore this film, and you should definitely check it out. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts, check out episode 22 of the podcast. So that's my top 10 list of 2018. I am so excited to finally get that out there for you guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that I'm lacking some Marvel movies? What are your favorite films of 2018? Please leave a comment and let me know. Also, I do want to plug the podcast. Check out episode 41. I will be putting up an episode on just me talking about all my honorable mentions, all my favorite movies of last year that weren't on this top 10, because I do think that those do deserve a lot of love because there was some other really good movies. Well, that's all I have. Thanks for watching, fellow Saints. Like this video, leave a comment below, and tell me what your top 10 films are. Subscribe to my channel, and as always, go in peace.